Okay, now let's play around with layer masks. And in this tutorial, you'll use two images and one will seem to blend into the other. So in Bridge, let's actually select this green leaves image and the Harlequin Lake sign image. So press down Command and select both of those, and then go up to Tools, Photoshop, Load Files into Photoshop Layers. Tools, Photoshop, Load Files into Photoshop Layers. So they'll both load into one document. If you get this, just put yes. It says it's currently busy. It really isn't, but it thinks it is for some reason. And we get both documents, and we can see them represented here. And we see both of them are in there. So we actually want the water image, the surface of the water, to be the one below. So let's switch places by dragging it, and now we see the sign is the one that's on top. Now what we're going to do is the sign's going to blend into the water. And so in order to do that, we have to create a mask. We have to make sure that the top image is selected. So make sure that this is grayed in here. Harlequin Lake sign is selected. And we're going to add a mask to that layer. Okay? So you can do that, making sure you're in Photoshop, by going to Layer, Layer Mask, Reveal All, or it's an easier shortcut to that, down here, this is the Add Layer Mask button. Do you see that down here on the right? So go ahead and click that, and notice what happens. It adds this white rectangle to that layer that was selected. That is the thumbnail, as it says. And that is showing you currently it's all white. So in other words, the image, we're seeing the entire image that's on that layer. Once you start painting with black, you're actually looking down through the layers to what's underneath that layer. Okay, so we're going to paint with black. And the way we know this is that there's white on top and black underneath. This sounds kind of strange, but you'll get it as we continue using this a lot. All right, you can exchange these, but we'll talk more about that later. So for now, just make sure the white is on top. Okay, so we're going to grab the gradient tool, and you can click that, or you can simply press the letter G. Okay, gradient is something that fades into another color or fades into something else. Okay, it's a blending tool. Now, when we press the gradient tool or we do the letter G, you're going to notice all these gradients are going to come up. And you're going to also notice that there's a symbol here that we, as with all tools, we want to do right mouse button, reset tool. It's a very important thing to do because you don't know what the last person might have done, what settings that person might have set for your tool. So you always want to reset that tool, whatever tool you're using. Okay, we're going to be first using this one, the far left one, and that is the linear gradient. What you're going to do is you're going to click, and let's just click from the left, and you're going to drag, and you can hold down Shift if you want it to be straight. So notice what happens if I hold down Shift. I'm clicking Shift, it's going to straighten it out. So it's a nice horizontal straight line. Okay, and then let go, and notice now the two images are blended. The sign blends into the image of the surface of the lake. Notice over here in the thumbnail, you see that blending represented by the white being the image that's on the layer and the black being the one that's underneath. You can click Option and onto that thumbnail, and you'll see the representation of white and black, which stands in for your image, the two images, right? Notice there's a lot more white here, which means that it's not perfectly in the middle, that gradient. If you want to exit out of that thumbnail, you can just simply click on the eyeball, or you can press Command I again. You can simply press Option and then the thumbnail again. You can click it with your mouse, okay? Or press the eyeball. Okay, so practice that several times. Notice if you do a very short line, it's more of a harsh transition, right? If you do a longer line, it's more of a gradual transition. Okay, so play around with that. Also notice that if you go the opposite way, and oh, I didn't mean to do that, I want the exact opposite of that, you can do Command I, which is the inverse command. Okay, so Command I, or you can go over here to your Properties panel, and there's actually an invert button there. Okay, so you can practice inverting and practice different gradient levels there of your line. That was not bad. Let's come over to another gradient, the radial or circular gradients. Okay, notice the circle here in the thumbnail. We just barely see the sign. That's kind of creepy. Okay, that's the circular, the radial gradient. You have the angle gradient up here. Go and click on that and practice. This is another more of a harsh transition. And that is interesting. Notice that very harsh angle that it leaves there. It's an interesting gradient. And then you can come over here to the reflected gradient, and this is actually going to be, it's going to be on 2. Now that's interesting with the sign there. You see here, the top and the bottom is the lower image. Okay, so we're barely see, or you can drag it, do a big drag, and you see more in the middle against the top and the bottom, or side to side. Yeah. Okay, and then finally you have the diamond gradient. And this is a diamond shape, and notice there the diamond shape is represented in the thumbnail. So lots of gradients to play with. Okay, so decide which one you like the best. And also feel free to practice with 2 other images. Okay, I have other images that I thought might be interesting to play with. The Jackson Hole antlers and this image of the Grand Tetons. Play around with the gradients with those 2 images, and then any other images you would wish to do as well.